Welcome back to Tomy's Travels. We're going to visit the Neuron and Neuromuscular Junction today. Never mind my ridiculous picture. Let's pay attention over here. All right, so the first thing that Anna's going to do is she's going to go over here. And she's going to meet Mr. Dendrite here. And Mr. Dendrite is feeling all of these impulses, these signals that are coming right here in the dendrites, but he has no idea what they are. Poor Mr. Dendrite. He is not very bright. All right, so Mr. Dendrite has to send them down here to the cell body, which is a pretty nasty sight because it's full of goo, and that is your cytoplasm. There is a nucleus inside this cell body, of course, because every cell has a nucleus, right? Well, at least the neurons do. All right, so this nucleus holds all of the DNA that created this beautiful piece of work. All right? Anyway, back to the signal that we're receiving. So it collects it here and it tries to organize it in something that perhaps we might understand. And once it gets that into an organized impulse, it sends it shoot, 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 straight through these, what we call Schwann cells. To me, they look like little bus stops, and I think of like the Schwann ice cream bus, right? These are like little Schwann ice cream buses. Okay, so that's a Schwann cell. And of course, just like we learned over here, every cell has a nucleus. Well, every Schwann cell has a nucleus too. See those beautiful little black dots right there? There it is, Schwann cell nucleus. But all of these Schwann cells, they're very delicate, and they need to be wrapped in a sheet. The little outer part, the sheet, the sheath. And I think of mattress sheet when I think of this, and it just helps me remember myelin sheath, all right? So she sees that there is a beautiful, nice covering that protects all of these Schwann buses here, and that is the myelin sheath. But in between all of our little buses, all of our little Schwann cells, is this little space. They kind of look like tiny little rivers that are flowing in between little alleyways. We're going to call those rivers the Node of Ranvier. That reminds me of river. The Node of Ranvier is what we call those little spaces. But all along, this impulse, along with Anna, is traveling in that little skinny tube that is called our axon. And the axon can break off into what looks like tree branches, right? And it can go to these little airport terminals and decide where else it's going to go in the rest of the body. But terminal branches, right? Looks like tree branches. It can also continue on this axon, on the axon, it's another way to remember it, until it reaches these synaptic knobs they kind of look like little frog feet that are just sitting on top of a muscle. And we are going to zoom in to this little spot right here where we have the axon coming down into our synaptic knob that's attaching to our muscle. And it's hailing outside, if you can hear that. It's hailing outside my car. All right, so moving on through all of the hail. Boy, that looks like hail, doesn't it? How appropriate. All right, it is connected to our muscle at the neuromuscular junction. All right, what is happening in this little spot? Well, here's your axon. We already know that. That's right here. And then our knob here, we already know, right, is the synaptic knob. Perfectly named, isn't it? But those impulses are sent into these wonderful little sacs. Don't they look like little sacs? Called acetylcholine sacs. If you can remember sacs and practice acetylcholine with this word, as long as you can remember these look like little sacs, this word will probably come to you just fine. And those acetylcholine sacs fall down into this space, just like the cleft of a rock, which is just a big separation between two rocks. That is a cleft, space between two things. And then here, they travel even further into our muscle fibers. Beautiful. That is the transmission of what we feel in our neurological system. That's the journey. Thank you, Anna Tomy.